Hey y'all, get ready to control, shift, and expand in all areas of your life. Welcome to this week's episode of the Prolific Shifts Sunday Sitdown with Janae Peters. Let's get ready to shift. Hey y'all, thank you so much for joining episode 2 of the Prolific Shifts Sunday Sitdown with Janae Peters. That's me. I'm Janae Peters. I'm the founder of Prolific Shifts. So those of you who want to know a bit about Prolific Shifts, you should watch episode 1, which tells you a bit about what I'm doing in this space compared to what I'm doing in my sort of larger Prolific Shifts initiative. But the basics of it include that this space is a space that I want to be for anyone who's ready for a shift. Whereas my initiative itself is geared towards Black educators and Black leaders, I want to offer something to others who are just ready for a shift. So for episode 2, this week, today's Sunday Sit Down is asking us to do something that I think a lot of us either don't love to do or don't make a lot of space and time for in our lives, or just don't have a lot of space and time for in our lives. When I think of my favorite quotation from Audre Lorde, which is the caring for myself is not self-indulgence, it's self-preservation, and that is an act of political warfare. I don't think about that in terms of the self-care or wellness as we've come to know it. I think of that in terms of caring for myself, and in order to care for myself, I have to know myself. I have to have some version of an understanding of why I do, what I want to do, what I don't want to do, who I want to be. And until I do that, I can't actually really figure out how to care for myself, because it's hard to care for something you don't know, right? So this week's question is asking us to start to engage in a little bit of that by way of thinking about beliefs, values, and principles. So things that we hold, that we carry in order for us to be held to a standard. And that standard is, I hope our own. Sometimes it's not. But this ask for engagement is to get you to articulate where this lives in your world and how you might use it in order to make a shift. In my first teaching job, one of my favorite experiences I've had to date, I was working at a boarding school. And a couple years into being there, I had the pleasure of getting to teach a course called Humanities 1. And that course had 4 essential questions. They included, what is my story? What is my place? What does it mean to be human? And how then shall we live? And I was always fascinated by those last 2 questions in particular. All of them were rich. But the last 2, what does it mean to be human? And how then shall we live? Always really got me. Because as an educator, I found myself all the time just sitting there thinking, what does it mean to be human? What is that thing that brings us together? And also, how shall we live? Like, once you know these things, once you know my story, or once I know my story, once I know my place, once I start to figure out what it is that keeps me connected to others, what am I supposed to do with that? How then shall we live? I also start to think about what happens, like how it feels to me when I'm at my best. And when I'm feeling at my best, when I'm thriving, whether that looks like me being on social media, just styling and profiling like I have been lately. But honestly, what does it mean to be at my best? What does that look like, right? Who is serving me in that space of me being my best self? What am I doing? What am I feeling? How am I moving? Am I bolder? Am I more outgoing and expressive when I'm at my best? Am I a smoother talker, more charismatic? Like, what does it look like to be at my best? And what am I holding when I'm at my best? What's motivating me? What's getting me into the spirit of my sort of bestness? That's not a word, but I'm going to let that slide. But what am I holding? And when we think about that for ourselves, I think one of the things that we also find is sort of what's not serving us, right? We also start to think about what it looks like when we're not at our best. What does it look like to not be existing from a space of being able to give, right? But from a space of wondering, why am I not receiving, right? So all of this is big stuff. And these videos are meant to be short and not fully expansive. But the these do lead to the question of the week, a question, again, that I hope will guide you in some reflection or thinking in your weekend, and really lead you to specific actions that you can take in any given week, things that are within your control, things that you can do in order to shift your life. So this week's question asks, what principles, values, and beliefs most guide your decisions and connections? And what are they at this time in your life? And how do you imagine them enriching or enlivening your world? When I think of mine, I know that my sort of core principles, right, my values, tend to be values that include authenticity, love, and also collective care. Like when I think of the things that drive me, that guide me, that I'm thinking about when I'm not at my best but want to be, and that I'm holding and just feeling like I'm really walking in when I am at my best, right? That's being authentic, being able to represent myself, express myself in a way that feels not forced, but just right, and like I'm in my element, right? Authenticity is important, and in education even, I really always hope to create spaces and structures where people can be who they are in their messiness, in their richness, in their bestness. We're just going to make that a thing since I already messed it up. But authenticity, love, and collective care have become so important to me as a standard to be thinking about. So when I'm making a decision, when I decide, I'm going to create this new initiative, I'm asking myself, am I engaging authenticity when I do this, right? Is this what I feel like my authentic self is able and wants to do? Is this coming from a place of love? And my good friend and mentor, Kay, will always say, is this coming from a place of Black love, right? Because that's a little different than some other forms of love. And then also, how does this initiative for me help me to participate in or engage with collective care? And that's the one that actually is most present for me in this, right? So this initiative is meant to engage in collective care in a way that no one else can do but us. And so when I think of where I am as I relate to this, I've always felt that I've been able to move authentically. But I think what I'm starting to understand this year in particular is that authenticity is also fluid. It's fluid like anything else. And so when we change, our authenticity is on that wave of change as well. So when I think of my relationship to authenticity right now, I feel like I feel free in a way that I think I thought I felt before, but know now that I hadn't been feeling free. Right? I feel like I have a sense of purpose that's helping me with my authenticity as well, and I feel pretty connected to that. When I think about how I feel in love, related to love, I feel very held by, supported by, cared for by so many relationships, so many people, so many spaces. And I also wonder what it looks like for me to give more of that, right? So what does it look like to share love, show love, express love? And that's something that I really want to be working on, like my ability to express love in ways that people can receive it. Like that's an important thing for me. How do I make sure that my friends know how much I care about them? How do I make sure that someone who's inspired me or had an influence on me knows that, right? That matters to me. And when I think about collective care, I think that's the one that's an aspirational one for me. I think I have cared and I do well at caring, especially in like one-on-one small group things. But when I think of collective care, that's bigger, right? Collective care is something that goes beyond, I think, anything that any one person can do. I mean, it takes one person participating in it, but collective care is big, right? And collective care has to happen, I think it has to happen regardless of how you're feeling about some in that collective, right? So that's one that I actually want to focus on in a big way. And I see this initiative for me as one way that I'm giving back to collective care that I've received in big ways. I'm going to stop there, but that's mine. Those are my principles, and I really do use them to see if any decision I'm making is in alignment with them. And when they're not, I have to really ask myself, if they're not in alignment with the principles that I say are guiding my life and my work and are helping me to be my best self, if my decision is not in alignment with that, what is it in alignment with? Right? What am I engaging? And what should I be engaging? What do I want to be engaging? So I would love to hear from you all, as always, about your answer to this. This week's primary question is, what principles, values, and beliefs most guide your decisions and your connections? Additionally, I'm asking, what are they at this time in your life, and how do you imagine them enriching or enlivening your world? Can't wait to hear from you all, and I'll see y'all again next Sunday with another question for Sunday Sitdown. Take good care, and see y'all soon. Thank you so much for listening to, watching, or engaging with the Prolific Shift Sunday Sitdown with Janae Peters. If you liked anything you heard, please don't hesitate to comment, like, subscribe, or support in any of these ways, and especially through your love and care. Peace, and I'll see y'all again soon.